What's up, everybody? Wait, no. I should say, what is it? Zdravo. Kako si?
Wow.
Mia, no. I'm trying to remember all the Serbian I know. You know any? Do you remember?
I just remember no, I remember Kakosi, Stravo. That's it.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, we're so bad. We lived in Serbia for a year,
I know, right?
but I forgot. I knew
Yeah,
more.
yeah. But anyway, let's start over. So, what's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. And I'm here with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, I'm AKDI and I'm from Turkey. And today we're reviewing a horrible movie. It's called A Serbian Film from 2010.
Now, let's take a step back here. So, the past few movie reviews have been a bit interesting. I picked The Waitress, the musical, possibly the whitest, most feminine movie, soft, cute movie you could ever imagine. Then we had like a fan request for Bodied. And then Acti's turn came to choose a movie, and she chose a Serbian film. So I don't want anybody coming for me about us talking about this film. I'm placing the blame on you.
Well, I mean, since this review is probably not gonna get monetized, I'll just say that sorry for being so fucked up. I mean, I saw this movie probably like in some website on a list. I don't know if it was Letterboxd, I don't remember it, but I just like noted down on my notes and I didn't know it was this bad. Though I think I should have known when I sent the film to you and I saw the thumbnail.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was basically like like a beat up naked girl.
yeah. It's pretty graphic. I've heard about this film for many years. I've actually been avoiding it. I remember when it came out, like around 2010, 2011, and my brother is a big fan of like very avant-garde, gory, graphic horror films. So he likes watching Saw and Human Centipede and Teeth. And when Serbian film dropped, I said, I don't need to see this. So I asked him to describe what happens in the movie to me. And he told me the whole story. And I said, yep, I don't need to see that. and throughout my life, as I've heard people mention this film, talk about this film, see it pop up online, I say, you know what? Let me just exit the room now. Now I don't need to be in this area. So yeah,
Okay. I mean, I honestly didn't hear about this movie before, I found it on a list.
yeah.
And I was curious about it, especially like because I didn't see any other Serbian movies as well.
Let me think. Yeah, I don't think we've seen any other Serbian films. And I think this is a good time to talk about like the name in and of itself. So the movie is titled A Serbian Film. It's directed by Sergian Spasojevic. Sorry. It's directed by Sergian Spasojevic and it's written by Alexander Radiojevic, right? And I believe that the title has like a meta narrative where they're trying to poke fun at all of the repression and censorship and good-hearted wholesomeness that was Serbian cinema during the Yugoslav times. And so by titling this film a Serbian film and promoting it so heavily, it's like they're trying to send a big middle finger to, what their country's cinema was known for in the past and saying like, this is what we're going to be doing in the future. Like we're making big, bold statements. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the title is definitely like I think throughout the movie, as we will talk about it, there is a lot of reference to that like oppression of the media.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that's very relatable, especially right now. But what happened with like Serbia is that they were oppressed more before and now they're I guess like more liberal when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to their media, and we did the opposite.
Mm,
So like Turkey had its erotic time of cinema before, like around 80s and 90s.
uh-huh.
And now our cinema is more oppressed
Mm,
and more words are forbidden to say, more things are forbidden to show and stuff like that. So I definitely understand that sort of like, uprising sense
hmm.
that the director would have.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked the name of the movie because it makes you think like, what the fuck? Like, what type of, title is this?
Yeah, it does get you interested, right? Because it almost breaks the fourth wall. In cinema, you have the wall between the audience and the actors on screen. And when the movie is titled, "This is a film from Serbia," it's sort of like hinting, winking at the audience, like, yeah, you're watching a movie, but we're going to press you to the limits of what does it mean to watch something on screen, and be affected by it, I guess. Because I feel like the screen is a big metaphor or a big plot point throughout this movie, right? And so there's screens that the actors are watching that tell a story to them, but there's also the screen that we're watching this movie on that's telling a story to us, not just directly the plots of the movie, but like a deeper meaning of like being affected, moved, grossed out, horrified by the screen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think also like just adding the Serbian there as well. I think, I'm not saying like Serbian people are like in this movie. Obviously not. It's like an exaggeration of a effed up situation. But I also think, yeah, like there are those sort of depressive elements to, these Serbian people's life. And, I think this is common around in the Balkans that, these people, even though they are in Europe, they are poor nations and there is a lot of suffering going on in these, countries and stuff like that. So, but they're still like proud of their culture, of course. And I think there was throughout the movie, also with the title, there was some, hinting to that as well.
Yeah, I think, for our generation, like I was born in 1990, you were born in 98. We don't remember the dissolution of Yugoslavia, right? Like a large country that existed in Europe for many years. Our parents remember that being there on the maps. And they also remember the Bosnian War, the stuff that happened in Kosovo and all the wars that happened in the Balkans. So like Serbia, in the minds of certain people, rings off as like a violent, war torn place, right? I don't know if you've ever had that experience when you tell people like, I was in Serbia and they say, "Oh, were you okay? Was it safe?" You get what I'm saying? I don't know if you've had that experience. Have you?
I mean, when I usually told people I was in Serbia, people were confused and didn't know what it was like. And they just assumed it was like a poor country.
Yeah. Let's take a step back for everybody here because we're taking a lot of steps back before we jump into this film. Basically, both of us are pussy. We don't want to talk about this movie. So we're talking about anything else. But my wife and I got married about 2 years ago, and we met a year before that in Serbia, in Belgrade. I was living in Belgrade for about a year and a half. She had been there for about a year, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So yeah, we were there for some time, and so yeah, we have a direct interaction with like Serbian people, their culture, and basically I appreciate it. I've had good times and bad times in Serbia during my time there as a black man, but overall, it's a cool country, and every time that we can go there, we always have a good time and learn something new. So yeah, any comments?
Yeah, for me, like, I think Serbians are usually like honest. They have that, I don't know, just like whatever it is, I'll get it done sort of attitude. And I like that. They're not like beating around the bush like how Turkish people are. And sometimes like that gets annoying for me. So I appreciated that when I was in Serbia. And they also, I think, know how to have fun. They know how to drink. And yeah, I think they're good people.
Yeah, yeah. So going back to the film, I think the title, calling it a Serbian film, it's also like nodding or winking at the people who think of Serbia as this violent, horrific, graphic place. And so it's not like the film is trying to change people's minds about that. It's saying, if this is who you think we are, then yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that's who we are. We are violent. We are twisted. We are sick. Sort of like, playing into the stereotype to to just say, yeah, F you all, F you to our old media, F you to the world. Like this I appreciate the film for its punkness, it has a certain punk
Mhm.
edge to it. You get what I
Yeah,
mean?
definitely. Such a good word to describe this movie, I think. And I also think like Serbia as a whole, it is a bit punk.
Yeah.
And there's definitely that in this movie. Though I wasn't like sure if this was like a representation of like how, or the stereotype of how the world sees them, but also how they stereotype themselves as well. So maybe
Possibly.
it's both of them.
Yeah, possibly. I think in the minds of older people, in when they think about Eastern Europe, they do think of like either very slutty women, a lot of traditional culture, rural places, war torn places, people that are more prone to violence, right? Stuff like that. You get what I'm saying? Sort of like how it's like how white people think of Africa, but maybe not as extreme.
Yeah, definitely. It's like Svetlanas and
Yeah,
lots of vodka going
yeah,
around, like lots
yeah.
of drunk men and stuff like that. And there is that too, but then there's also like just your normal average people too, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
there are drunk people and hot girls in every country, so.
Right, right. But Eastern Europe does it a certain way. But yeah, so let's talk about this film. I mean, let's just walk through the story. I'm going to be reading mostly from Wikipedia. Maybe I'll give my feedback because I'm also looking at the film too. And I don't want to, but I have to remind myself of certain things. So let's walk through the story and let's just break it down. So this story is about Milos. He is a semi-retired porn star, and he lives in Belgrade with his wife, Maria, and their 6-year-old son, Petar. His brother Marco is a corrupt police officer who envies Milos's life and is sexually attracted to Maria. Maria is curious about her husband's feelings toward his past and is concerned about the family's income. Leela, a former co-star, offers Milos a starring role in an art film directed by Vukmir, an independent pornographer who wishes to cast Milos for his powerful erection. Having already caught Petar watching one of his films and not informed of the details of Vukmir's film, Milos is hesitant to participate and continue in his career, but accepts to secure his family's financial future. While meeting Vukmir, Milos passes a bald man and his entourage, regarding them warily. Any comments about the beginning of the film, introduction of the characters, the story, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're gonna talk about the beginning of the film basically opens up with like one of the porn scenes that Milos is doing. Well, he did back in the day. And right off the bat, it's like very in your face, everything is out in the open and you cannot watch this with your parents. But yeah, I think it like the beginning gives us like the dynamic of Milos's family life and home life. And I thought it was also interesting to have like two brothers and one of them is a cop and one of them is a porn star. And I'm like, this could only happen in a Serbian movie. Because most of the time, like when you have porn stars as, your main character, police is usually the enemy. But yeah, they also seem to have a good relationship with his brother, at least like on the surface. They're like joking and stuff like that. And also he seems like he has a good relationship with his family, at least like with his wife. But there was like this aura of, I guess, I don't know, like a little bit of desperation of his current life for Milos. And maybe I wasn't sure if it was like he missed his old days or he just wished that like he didn't have this talent of being a great, fucker.
Yeah, so the very first scene is, like you said, it's Milos having sex on camera, making porn, but his son is watching it on the screen. And if you're a young man, or if you were a young man, right, I think a lot of guys have had that situation where you've been caught watching porn. But when Milos walks in with Maria, Milos says, hey, it happens to everybody. And then Maria says, yeah, but it's not your dad that you see watching on screen having sex, right? And it was sort of interesting how they sort of like played it cool to some degree because Maria takes the son and leaves the room, but Milos sits there and watches his films on screen and continues just sitting there like, you know, it's sort of hard to tell. Like, is he giving that face that he likes what he's seeing, like he wishes he was doing it again, or is he disgusted by his past? And yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that?
I mean, first of all, like the whole kid watching his dad's porn and how they reacted, I thought it was like very Serbian. Because I do think, like they are a traditional country, but I do think in most of the times, maybe even because of their stereotypes, I feel like they are open about like alcohol and sex, and maybe they view it as like and because it's also very patriarchal, country and culture. I guess like it was sort of normalized that, a little boy will eventually watch porn and he will feel things and things like that. So I appreciated that it wasn't like a big fight or a big scene between them.
Mm.
And if that something like that happened to me, like if our kids saw our sex tape, which we don't have, but I probably wouldn't be able to give the same reaction. I would definitely freak out, but I do think like, it should be openly talked about because it's natural.
Yeah, there was a phrase you said. You said, a lot of kids watch their dad's porn, but it's not your dad's porn. You know what I mean? Like that's the funny part about the beginning, right? He is literally watching his dad's porn.
Yeah, that's kind of like crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But it's sort of the interesting thing is like that, that scene at the very beginning could have been horrific for the kid. And one of the problems I have in the story is that there isn't a lot of layers built on to Maria and his son Marco, right? Because there's no point ever in the film where Maria sort of gives a reason why she's with a porn star. By all intents and purposes, it seems like Maria is actually like kind of educated, smart. She's, kind of good looking, so she has options. Why did she choose Marco? It can't just be for the dick. You get what I'm saying? That was one issue I had with the film. I thought they were going to handle that early on about explaining why she chose a porn star. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know. Love is love, and obviously, porn stars do end up like in relationships and get married, and most of the time, I think maybe probably later in life. So I think like she just genuinely loved him, and that's just like my thought.
Yeah, but I feel like you could really love somebody, but sometimes if they do things that you really don't agree with, it's hard to say, yeah, I can still be with you. You might love somebody, but you have to let them go because they want to make OnlyFans. And you can't stop them, but that's what they want to do. They want to play with sex toys on camera.
Yeah, but I think that goes again like to the patriarchal culture that I was referring to. I think it's like seen also it's like this in Turkey as well, like women are just assuming guys to be sexually hungry, and it's like guys will be guys.
Yeah,
Men
guys will
will
be
be
guys.
men.
Yeah, guys will be guys. Guys might want to, sleep with a lot of women. Guys might want to even, cheat on their girlfriends or wives. A lot of guys don't want to get hard and erect on camera and do that for a living. That's a whole nother level of, freakiness.
Yeah, but I think like he has been doing this before he met her. That's my theory. And
Mm.
like when they met, obviously, I'm sure there was like a conversation around it. And I guess she just accepted it like as a profession and
I
not
get,
something like, she can't look over. And maybe like that's why he's semi-retired
it.
because they decided to get married.
I got you. It would have been, it's just, Maria and Marco play a very, very important part in the film at the beginning and at the end. And not explaining more on these characters or allowing them to build and develop, letting them be just sort of props there. And we're left filling the blanks for their relationship. It feels unfinished, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I would have liked to see like a flashback here
Right.
and there in the
I,
beginning. That would have been helpful.
I thought it would have been cool if they, Milos and Maria, when they're alone, maybe they were high school sweethearts. And then Milos went off and became a big porn star, but then he told his high school sweetheart, look, I want to settle down. I want to be a changed man. And that's it. Like they were talking about that. Instead, there's just a really raunchy sex scene.
Yeah, I mean, like the only thing we know about their past as a couple is that Maria could have chosen between Marco or Milos, like
Yeah,
the cop or the porn star, and she went for Milos.
right, right.
And I think that could, like, because I feel like most people would choose someone with a more, decent job,
Yeah,
like a cop, especially like women, and especially traditional women, like in Serbia.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that for me that could have only been explained by like love.
yeah, yeah. Now, there's the scene right after, Milos catches his son watching the porn. His wife comes to him and says, we need some money. So he pulls out a few dollars from some of his cassette tapes and stuff like that. And then he goes to meet Leah, right? And Leah says, I heard that you are, down on your luck, but you've had the hardest, longest, biggest cock that we've ever seen, and we want to get you back in the game. But Milos is kind of like playing it cool because they refer to this, but they never show it. But Leah does bestiality porn. Okay. Which was wild. Like out of all the things they did in this film, you know what I mean? Like they might as well have just shown it because that's one of the underlying things that's wild about, Leah's character, right? And she actually turns out to be like a good character in the end. But Milos is like,
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I don't know if she was good ever, but yeah.
Okay, but what did you think about that? What
I
did you
mean,
think about him
l-
and Leah and Milos? Yeah,
later on they show it kind of. I don't know if you remember, but they show like a very short passage of like her with a donkey.
I thought they just referenced it. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I don't know
But
if I
they
missed
don't
it.
show like her, actually doing the deed. They just show like the beginning. But anyway,
I did not see a donkey in this entire film. Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure?
yeah, how am I gonna make it up from my head? Like, did I have a bad dream?
Oh wow, maybe you did because this film will make you have bad dreams.
No, I'm sure. But anyway, it was towards the ending. But yeah, like she just came off, looking like a very like popular hooker.
Hmm.
And yeah, she was crazy and she was like also very open, and she said things like, for Milos, about Milos, that every girl that you shot with before wanted to marry you because it
Hmm.
was just like that good.
Hmm.
So we know like Milos was a legend.
Yeah,
Like
she
he
also
was
says
like Johnny Sins.
yeah, I don't know if it was this part, but no, I think that comes up later. That comes up later. Vukamir says something to Milos later, like, the way you did your deed was fantastic. You would bring a girl down to shit and then bring her back to life. It was art, what you did and stuff like that, right? And it
Yeah.
was sort of interesting how they kept on building up Milos's history, right? Because all the scenes that they show of him actually doing porn, he's given like very rabbit strokes, like the tap. I don't know if women actually feel that if they like that like that. I don't know. Milos would be a different character if it was Montarius, if it was Dimitri or something.
I mean, like in the movie, they show Milos like a guy that has like a monster dick.
He has a monster dick,
But
but
it
he's
was
doing like
prosthetics.
yeah, it's very prosthetic. But he also has like that short, like the little dick rabbit stroke. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but he does it with a big dick, so I guess it's good. I don't know. Like it looks like the porn that they show of him doing it before. It
Yeah,
looks very like old school,
yeah,
kind of like, I don't know, like the teacher gets punished and stuff like that.
yeah.
Like that sort of like scenario porn, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. But there's a scene after, when Milos is alone with Maria in a bed, right? And basically Maria says, why don't you ever sleep with me like the girls on screen? You make love to me. Did you ever want to like fuck me? Right. And so then he like rips her gown and then basically pounds away at her and presses her head there and stuff like that. And, throughout this film, there's a lot of, brutality against women. And it seems to also be sort of encouraged and supported by the women around. What do you think about that? Like in this story, right? Because it's sort of interesting. Because like once again, Maria seems like she is at more of an advantage than Milos in this case, but she still chooses to sort of be like dominated by this guy.
I mean, I understood where Maria was coming from because, like, yeah, as women, especially like a married woman myself, we want to be marriage material. Yes, we want to be wifey material, mother material, all of those things. But in the bedroom, we also like want our husbands porn star, like private porn star, you know? We
Mm-hmm.
want to fulfill your fantasies as, you know, your wife. We don't like want you to fantasize about other women or watch porn, but we want you to do all of those things on us.
Mm-hmm.
So I get where like that was very relatable for me, you know, as a wife who like, you know, if when you're in a marriage, you constantly have sex with the same person, and
Yeah.
obviously you want to like keep things alive and stuff like that. So yeah, that was relatable. I mean, I didn't enjoy their sex because it did feel like, you know, somewhat like a bit too brutal,
Mm-hmm.
but I get it. You know, some couples, you know, have those type of sex
Yeah.
sometimes, and so it was a like, okay.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated by the assistance that women give a lot of times to help men continue to abuse on women though, because yeah, okay, a woman like Maria might want to have rough sex with their husband sometimes, but like Leah possibly knew what Vukmir was going to do to Milos, right? And also the other women that Milos was going to have sex with. And she sort of like went along with it. And other women in this story, right, who are part of the movie that Milos will shoot, sort of help and abet the torture of other women. So I just find that extremely shocking, interesting, fascinating, and it's just something I just think about a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like Layla, you know, abetting Milos's situation later on in the movie, I think she was maybe like just mad at him for quitting because, you know, he was a sex god, a Balkan sex god. And also maybe she was also jealous of him because she wanted to be with him, da da da. I don't know. But like she also sort of created a way for other women to get abused. Yes, but at the same time, like, I don't like this narrative of like, oh, women are like enabling men to abuse other women or abuse themselves and stuff like that, because it's not that. I don't think it's ever that black and white. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's like more context to everyone's story,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's like financial difficulties, psychological, you know, stuff that they're going through and stuff. So I don't like that narrative.
I
And
mean,
I think like men and women should collectively take responsibility for those type of abuses.
right. I mean, yeah, it's the men who are abusing the women, right? Uh, it's not just, one sided where women are just like sort of offering themselves up for no reason, right? It can be implied and understood that, yeah, women have less financial or economic opportunities to live independent of men, right? And so, yeah, but it's still like at what, how much money does somebody have to pay you to, sleep with a donkey though?
Oh my God, no,
You
no
get what I'm
amount of
saying?
money.
You get what I'm saying? Like that's the question that's at hand, right? Uh, uh, do you think this film overall is anti-porn or is sending an anti-porn message? Because I feel like, you could watch this and say the the level of depravity that's reached by Milos and Vukmir and the rest of the people who continue on in this story, this can only happen when somebody has been exposed to pornography too much, or when they have enough money to try to indulge in every single sexual fantasy that they want to put on screen, and make people do it. So I don't know. What do you think?
Oh God. I mean, I don't know if this movie's anti-porn or not anti-porn, because obviously the porn that they're trying to shoot in this movie is horrific, and it's not like your usual porn category, right? It's like brutal gore porn, sort of, murder porn even. And so I can't say that this movie is like for porn,
Yeah, I
but
definitely,
I don't think it was like the question that this movie was asking.
I, I think it is to some degree. I think definitely this movie is making us ask the question, like, you know, what really are we consuming or creating or allowing to exist when we allow the porn industry to be there, right? Or just by nature of it being there, what will result of it? um I mean, just think about it, right? Like, 100 years ago, they didn't have this. Of course, people had those sexual desires and fantasies and stuff like that. But now with pornography, right, you can watch other people do things. You can get exposed to new things you never thought about. And you can go deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole where you're watching things you never thought you would watch before. Now that happens to some people, right? Like for me and my porn watching habits, generally it's been the same since I was a teen. I haven't gone too extreme. I don't like watching women get abused. I don't like watching anal. I don't like watching choking. I don't like watching gangbangs or role play like a violent rape. I don't like watching any of that. But I could understand if somebody started off watching vanilla stuff and then ended up going down a darker hole because maybe they didn't know they liked this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. I just like when you said that, I remembered like, whenever I watch porn, it's like I'm going through the main page, and most of the time I'm like ugh, and then I have to like find that one like I wouldn't say like necessarily vanilla, but just like one normal video,
Yeah. It's very
and it's
easy to
like,
go on like Pornhub and just see like a gaping asshole looking at.
yeah, like I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
why am I seeing incest in my, main page?
Stepmom, stepdad, double
Oh my
penetration
god.
orgies.
Why is that so popular? Like, step everything.
I don't know. I've never thought that was hot.
Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
Even just like, I mean, those people are not really siblings, I think. I
Yeah.
guess. I hope.
Yeah.
But, like, okay. So, I just said that maybe this movie's not asking that question because of, like, why it was made. It was sort of like a rebellion against the media. So that's why I thought maybe the director was like, what is like, the thing that you cannot ever show on TV? Porn. So like that's what I'm gonna show.
But but it's also like porn is a type of media, right? Like I feel like this film is no different than like a parody or like a critique of like, let's say, gangster rap. There was a famous film called like CB4 where Chris Rock was basically parodying gangster rappers, right? And dialed it up a notch. The gangster rappers were really doing all the drugs, shooting everybody, slapping everybody, stuff like that, and just taking it up a notch, right? I feel like this film is also to some degree an attack on like one of the most, on paper, exploitative industries that there can literally be. People having sex on camera for money. I mean, it's sort of like where capitalism leads us to, the total commodification and debasement of everything. Every part of our lives can be packaged up and sold,
Mm.
and anything that can ever be thought of can be turned into a DVD and sold to a rich billionaire. Hey, you want to see a prostitute get fucked in the ass and then her head cut off? Yeah, just we can do that for you, buddy. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's sort of
Yeah.
like I feel like there is a critique here of the porn industry because the whole film might be criticizing capitalism to some degree. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, there's definitely that capitalism criticism in the movie. And like just adding up to what you said, yeah, maybe it's asking that question of how far are we willing to like go to fulfill other people's fantasies.
Hmm.
Like, how far are we gonna go? Are we gonna, is it gonna be child porn? Is it gonna be like, you know, rape porn and all of those things? Like, these are horrible things. And maybe it's saying, like, we should just leave these in our fantasies and not really, like, put it on film.
Right. But I think there's also a critique to the audience in and of itself, right? Because I believe, what's his name? Who wrote this? Alexander and Serbian. When they said, hey, we're going to make a film where the most horrible, horrific sexual things will happen to people, he knew that people are going to watch it just based on that, right? So there's also a critique of us, the audience, because so many people have watched this film just because other people said, hey man, you want to have a really fucked up night? Watch a Serbian film. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, definitely.
it's probably no different than somebody saying, man, I really want a nut right now, but I want the extreme hardcore double penetration fisting gaping asshole gangbang I can find. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so gross. Sometimes I cannot solve human mysteries. Like, why are we like this? Because
Yes.
we watched this movie. To be fair, I didn't know it was like sexually deviant, but I had some ideas when I saw the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm gonna hate this, but let's go for it. And it's just like the self-torture thing for me, at least.
Yes. So
But
why are we looking for that? Why are we indulging in that?
that's a great question. I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know. It's like seeing other people in pain and it makes us more cautious and teaches us lessons of never to like accept a porn deal. I don't know. We're
Oh
fucked up.
man.
That's the only answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's continue on in the story. So, Milos agrees to do the film with Vukmir, and so then he hops in the car with like some big bald guy with a tattoo on his neck of cinema, right? Like of a wheel that has film, like
Yeah.
cinema film on the back of his neck. And that's important later because I'm going to break that down, but we'll talk about that. So he's riding in the car with this big bald guy and he takes them to an orphanage. So they begin filming at this orphanage where Vukmir feeds Milos instructions through an earpiece given by Vukmir's one-eyed driver, Rasha. Oh, Rasha is the name of the driver. Okay. So a film crew follows Milos when he gets out of the car and walks into the orphanage. And he sees a young girl named Yeka who is being scolded by her mother for disgracing her deceased war hero husband's memory by becoming a prostitute. In a dark room, a screen shows Yeka eating an ice pop while Milos is given fellatio by a nurse. Milos is then forced to receive fellatio from the mother while Yeka watches. Marco later informs him that Vukmir is a former psychologist who has worked in children's television and state security, right? And that's because Milos called up Marco and said, hey, can you look up who this guy Vukmir is? And so when he calls his brother, Marco says, yeah, I'll do it, Brat. And when he hangs up the phone, Marcos is getting head from like some woman, maybe his girlfriend, prostitute, whatever. And Marcos is looking at Milos and Maria and his son all having like a birthday party while he's getting head. And then he switches to a porno that Milos did in the past where he has sex with two girls. And the girl that was sucking his dick gets up and says, wow, that guy is so amazing. How does he stay so hard for so long? And so, yeah. Any comments about any of that scene? Any of those scenes?
Okay, so I'm taking it a little bit back. When they first meet with, what's his name? Vukmir.
Yeah.
Milos and Vukmir. First of all, like, if they're sending a car for you and like a big butch guy is driving the car, that's obviously the first red flag. And then he enters the villa looking place and there is like a guy with securities walking out there. And immediately when I saw that, I thought, okay, like, there's someone else behind this, or maybe that's the boss, or maybe that's a client that requests the porns, and they work for like different, clients that want certain porn movies that are not available to them and they shoot for them like privately. That's what I thought. And then he went in and he met with Vukmir, and Vukmir is basically like sucking this man's dick, not literally. But he's saying like, oh, you're like the sex god and you were doing art. Like you are the person who turned pornography into art. And I thought like that conversation was interesting because this guy, Vukmir, is talking like as if he's doing a short movie.
Mm.
Like as if he's doing a festival movie. Like he's so dedicated and he's talking about it like it's a true art form.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me ask the question to myself, like, can porn really be art? What do you think?
Um, yes and no. Yes and no. I think what we think of as art is distorted because art is essentially anything that can be sold for value that has no other purpose than just being aesthetically pleasing. Um, so can it be art? I guess, yes. Let's say you have black and white photos of Madonna sucking on a lollipop. That could technically be pornographic, but it could also be artistic, I guess. But is just a gonzo, BBC gangbang video art? It's hard for me to say that. No, I don't think so. What do you think?
I mean, I think sex and sexuality is very powerful and it can definitely like wake up certain feelings in a person. But honestly, like, I think when I see like certain sex scenes in certain movies, it's very like emotionally arousing to me. And
Mm-hmm.
then, whereas when I watch porn, it's more so like for me to just get off,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And I don't feel the same way with when I watch those scenes and when I watch porn.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think porn can be art because it's too exploitative, it's too capitalistic, and I know like it's like fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I could never think fast food as gourmet, as, traditional food. It's never going to get to that level for me, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how delicious it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think sex can be art, but I don't think porn can be art.
I don't know if that makes sense because how could sex be art if it's not recorded or
It,
documented?
well, it could be in a movie, it could be a photograph, but not for the purpose of porn.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's a performance, right?
Yeah.
It's a performance that is not artistic, I guess. Right? Like a
Yeah.
sporting event, I guess. If anything, I guess you could compare pornography to like a type of sporting event. You wouldn't say a football player or a great tennis player is an artist, right? They're great athletes, and these are people doing physical things with their body that most humans cannot do.
I
So
guess, yeah. Yeah.
it will
Kind of
fall in that
similar.
category. But
Yeah.
I got something to say. There was a scene earlier with Milo sitting down with his son in the park, and his son is saying, when I watched that porno of you, Daddy, I got a weird feeling down there. It felt like a family was moving in a circle in my loins. And I just feel very weird. And then Milo says something like, just follow the blood and let it come natural and stuff like that. And his son like starts moving his hand towards his junk, and he's like, "No, no, no, not now. Just at night." You get what I'm saying? Which I thought was cute and funny. And it's like, I think one of the strengths of this film is Milos's character, right? Because even though we see him do some depraved, horrible things in this film, he comes across as a likable guy and also a character who makes generally the right decisions and moves. I was not looking at the film saying, "Oh, Milos, why'd you do that? That was dumb," or "Oh, this dickhead Milos did something horrible again." He comes across as a sympathetic character. You get what I'm saying? But I don't know. What did you think of Milos, his relationship with his son, or how he was as a character, anything like that?
Yeah, I liked Milos in general. Like you said, he just seemed like a guy who's trying to survive, each day. And, probably a guy who has regrets in life and things like that. But he was just trying to survive in the world he was worried about his financial situations, about not being able to support his family.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I would say he was a good husband and father.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I liked how he was trying to explain, like, sexuality to his son without being overboard with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously he's a sexually liberated guy, I assume, because he was a
Right.
porn star.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked his character. Like you said, like, you don't hate the main character and you don't think he acts stupid.
Yeah, yeah. He's like an everyman. He's like a guy who possibly, made some bad choices, trying to get his life right, and he's trying to just do this one last gig, the one last big deal to finally retire in the sunset, right? Like a mafia movie, right? One more deal. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there was something else I wanted to say about, the choice of telling the story using children, right? Because there's that scene when Milos goes into the school and he sees Yeka for the first time, and then he sort of like rolls his head back and gives like a face to the camera, like, "Oh shit, what did I get into?" Which I think is that was one of the best scenes, low key. Just that face he made let us know exactly how he was feeling and how the audience was feeling too. Because the last thing you want to see is like this guy get paid to do, horrible things to kids on cam. But what did you think about using Yeka in the story?
It was definitely very interesting because I was low key like trying to figure out what was gonna happen because I think, you know, I think the thing that was so great about how Milos was set in the porn movie that he was about to shoot is that they basically gave him like this earpiece and they was telling him what to do in that moment because this guy, Vukmir, he said he didn't tell Milos what they were going to shoot. And then he said that it should be natural. And as he was experiencing what the hell was going on, the audience was experiencing with him. And we were like, what is he gonna do? Like, is he gonna have to fuck a kid? Like, is he gonna have to fuck a donkey? I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
what is gonna happen?
yeah.
And I think it was like done so well. And they tell him in the first scene to walk inside relaxed. And it's
Hmm.
like this guy cannot be relaxed. And we can
Yeah.
see it in his face. He was just like, what the fuck is happening? I'm not gonna relax. And then he sees the kid and he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot fuck a 15-year-old.
Yeah, which
And
is wild too. Which is
yeah,
it's crazy because like the way Vukmir explained it, like you said, was you're gonna just be natural. Don't worry about the story, right? We're gonna tell the story. You just have to be there. And when he goes into that room and he gets a blowjob while Yeka is like sucking on a lollipop and stuff like that, it was very weird. It felt like they were like programming him to get ready to sleep with Yeka later. It felt like they were just trying to brainwash Milos into doing something more horrible later at the beginning. But what did you think?
definitely. You took the words out of my mouth. It
Hmm.
felt like they were brainwashing him because he was being pleasured, but
Hmm.
at the same time they were showing him like these pictures of a young girl. And it
Hmm.
wasn't like yes, she was very young. She was probably underage. Maybe like 14, 15, something like that. But she wasn't also like, like 8 or something.
Right, right.
So I think that's also was fucking with his head as well because it was just that period before puberty.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like very weird because also before he went into that dark room where he saw the footage of the girl, it was like uh, the girl's mom came in and she basically yelled at Yeka
Hmm.
and talking about like, his father and things like that. So it felt very traditional all of a sudden and then it turned into porn.
Yeah, but there was also that we didn't know this at the beginning, but basically the whole plot line for that film that they were shooting is that Yeka, her father was a war hero, but he died, and so she became a prostitute and is bringing disgrace to the family, right? Or is it the mother? I think it's the mother. Yeah, the
Yeah,
mother.
mother became a whore.
Yeah, okay, actually, wow. Wow. The mother became a prostitute and brought disgrace to the family. And so they were trying to tear her away, right? And Milos, I guess, is like the boyfriend of the mother, uh, who is also thinking about Yeka. He has dreams of laying with the daughter, right? And I thought it was interesting because Serbia, of course, has had a history of war. Very recently, people are still alive that were around during that time and participated in those things. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's impossible to not talk about this film and not bring up, Serbia's, atrocities that they committed in like Bosnia and stuff like that. And I know the Serbian listeners are going to get real pissed off and stuff. But I believe like a lot of this film, some of the things are probably a type of collective guilt that they feel inside for like Srebrenica and the siege of Sarajevo, where they didn't let the people of Sarajevo leave for years, and they just continued to like shoot down into the valley. And that's why when you go to Sarajevo today, there's like graveyards all over the city. And basically all the Muslims in Srebrenica were like ethnically cleansed, like in Gaza right now. So I do think, even though this is not spoken about in the film at all, it's hard for me to look at this and not think the war has come home to some degree,
Mm.
right? The war has psychologically left an effect not only on the victims, but the perpetrators of crimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think like this idea of, Serbia and its war criminals and also like its war veterans and things like that. It's very complicated in this movie. I agree that there's definitely a hint of that guilt, but it's also like not only guilt, but like when we were talking about it last night, I said this, but even though, these Serbian men, these Serbian soldiers were sent there to fight for their country, they were also brainwashed to an extent because they
Mm-hmm.
were only soldiers who were taking orders. And when you are in that sort of like a mindset, especially after like also NATO coming after your country and things like that,
Yeah.
I think, these people left, they did horrible things, but then when they came back to their countries, they carried a trauma as well. And I think that was also like showing in the film that
Right.
that trauma of being an abuser and then maybe even realizing it later that what they did was bad
Right.
because at the time they weren't aware of it, they were brainwashed.
Right, right. But the Serbians are also a people, I would say, who at the same time deny that they, ever did anything bad in Bosnia or Kosovo is still theirs. And, they've been constantly the victims of other people's aggression against them. They feel innocent and everything. They're also at the same time feel like, we really are the Euro poors. Like we are oppressed by other groups of people. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's hard for them to view themselves as the oppressors. They view themselves also as like the oppressed because, oh guys, we have a lower GDP than like South Africa. You get what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
we're, we're behind everything else in Europe. So leave us alone. Stop messing with us. And I think a lot of the violence and, depravity in this film is sort of just like a way of like just saying, oh, maybe we are exactly who we say we are. Let's just wallow in shit and just be as disgusting as possible instead of trying to be something we're not or run away
Yeah.
from who we are.
Yeah, I guess also I was gonna mention, like related to the war part of it, when all of those people went to war, what they, like, the wives were left behind,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm sure, like, the story of wives that were left behind that became prostitutes to maintain, their lives and their children's lives and things like that. I'm sure it's not like something uncommon
Mm-hmm.
because that happens through the time of war. And nobody really actually is worried about who's left behind because, yeah, I mean, the war is the point,
Yeah.
right? And I think, like, being like a patriarchal, very traditional society, it was like hinting to that as well. Like,
Right.
we still think as a society, as a Serbian society, we still view those soldiers as veterans,
Mm-hmm.
as people who can never do wrong, even if they have twisted, sick fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
And we will punish like whoever disrespects them, including even if it's their own wives.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. There's still that veneration of the veteran. They still look up to them as heroes and trying to keep some semblance of sacredness for them. You know what I mean? There's also a scene, when how can I say this? Leah comes to Milos after he has, done a few scenes at the orphanage, and Leah's like, "You're losing it. You're getting drunk all the time." And that's another thing. Like throughout the film, Milos is trying to like fight back the urge of trying to be this guy who is constantly having sex. You know what I mean? By getting drunk, by getting whiskey dick on purpose. But Leah comes there and is like, don't turn pussy. Don't you miss this pussy? And he looks at her pussy and then she says, well, fuck you. Because he's like not turned on at all. But yeah, any comments about that?
Yeah, I think like at least what I appreciated in those scenes about Milos is that he was a professional.
Yeah.
He wasn't like just trying to fuck everything. He
Mm-hmm.
was really doing it because he had to, because of, the financial stuff that he was going through.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it just made me like give him more respect
Yeah.
as a man. And obviously like what he was going through in the shoots, it was crazy.
What
So
did
I
you?
didn't expect him to like have an erection all the time, but he was sort of fighting that.
Yeah. I mean, possibly the film got a bit more brutal when, Milos shows up to a shooting late at night and he walks into the room and he sees a woman getting beat on. And the guy is saying, your Reiko was a hero. He was a war hero. You became a whore. And then she crawls over to Milos and starts to like suck his dick. But then, the guy grabs him from behind. You remember that? And
Yeah.
after she bit his dick.
And there
And
was
then,
the child was watching Yeka.
yeah, the child was watching and stuff like that. And then, yeah, the guy grabs him from behind and then he tells him, Milos, to like beat the girl. So he has to beat the lady and then he like comes on her face and stuff like that. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are we gonna continue the story, or are we gonna talk about that scene?
No, I'm just kind of grossed out. Just I'm because we're about to get to the worst part. So anyway, Milos has had enough. Milos has had enough. He's about to quit. His wife tells him, "Why don't you quit over the phone?" But he's like, "No, it's more professional to do it in person." So Vukmir meets a hesitant Milos afterward to explain his artistic style, showing a film of a woman giving birth, followed by the newborn being immediately raped by the fat bald man with the tattoo on the back of his neck of a film reel, whose name is Rasha. In what the director terms newborn porn. Oh God. Milos storms out and drives away, but at a road junction, he is approached and seduced by Vukmir's female doctor. So, yeah, that scene, that's why I was like stopping, because I was like, I did not want to talk about this. Basically, Milos, he's trying to quit, but Vukmir goes off on a rant to like, this stupid country, they put out this stupid media and this stupid society that says we have to be adults and take care of ourselves and feed ourselves, clothe ourselves. We want to make art. And Milos is like, tell me the story for the film and maybe we could do business. And then Vukmir sort of gives off the game. He gives away the game. He says, nobody cares about the story in porn. He says it himself. So that scene was kind of funny because like Vukmir this whole time was like selling the idea. We're making art. We're telling big stories. And then he says, nobody cares. We just need you to fuck. And then, he shows him basically what is supposed to be an avant-garde film. And I think it's the same woman. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the same woman that was the wife of Reiko. Do you
I mean,
think it
you
was?
think Yeka got raped at birth?
Maybe.
God damn. I mean,
Or it could be Yeka's sister. It's possible she had another child.
I don't know like who it was particularly, because every woman looks kind of the same.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry. They were both blonde. Okay. So I don't know like if they were the same person or not. And the pregnant woman, we didn't like see her face that well.
Yeah.
Cause she had like, she was
Oh,
sweaty and hair everywhere and stuff like that.
oh
Anyway,
God. Oh God.
yeah, it was, I was definitely, first of all, I was not expecting like the baby to get raped.
Yeah, that
At
was.
worst, I was thinking, okay, is he gonna fuck like the pregnant lady? And then like it took a whole different turn, and I was like, whoa, like what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that was.
And
I literally feel sick right now. I literally feel sick.
yeah,
Like, you know, I there's only been one other film where I felt I could not look at something on screen, and that's when we watched Nymphomaniac 2, and Joe gave herself an abortion in her
oh
bathroom
god,
floor. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, that
Like,
was so bad too.
that was really bad. But what made this one bad is not we didn't see the penetration, right? But you heard the baby screams.
Yeah,
Right? That's
no,
what made it
you
bad.
just see kind of like the guy's butt,
You see his
basically.
butt gyrating and moving, but you also hear a baby like scream in a way that it's hard to forget, right? You can't
Yeah,
unhear it.
and
And
it's like also the mom laughs. And
yeah,
it's so like weird that this thing is happening that I didn't even know if mom was laughing because she was just shocked or she was like brainwashed or she was
yeah,
just a psychopath. Like I couldn't make sense of it basically.
yeah. It's absolutely insane.
But what I would say like about this scene is that it made me think of two things.
Hmm.
First one is like Turkey being also like a very conservative country. I would say more conservative than Serbia. Especially like when it comes to sex and anything related to sex, gender, drugs, alcohol, it is very oppressed. Even though like, do people still do it? Yes, of course. People still have sex. People still drink alcohol and do drugs, but it's oppressed by the government constantly. So people do it in illegal ways.
Hmm.
And I just think the government putting that sort of pressure on something as natural as sex causes people to have like these insane explosions of deviant sexual fantasies.
Hmm.
Because I think if people are more liberated in terms of their sexual fantasies, they can think about it and talk about it. And if it's really fucked up, then maybe they can get help.
Hmm.
But I feel like when it's oppressed to an extent where you can't even talk about normal sex, like vanilla sex between a man and a wife, it's like, whatever else that goes in your head is going to be much worse. So people just suppress it and then they be fucking like dogs, chickens,
Yeah.
weirdest things that you'll see, babies. And it's
Mhm.
just, I think it's very
Oh.
closely related to like that government oppression.
Yeah, but there was a few live streams ago or movie reviews ago where I said, pedophilia is a horrible, horrible thing, but nobody should be thrown away forever. Nah, fuck that. Like whoever even has a desire to do something like newborn penetration, that's like you got to get killed automatically, and the worst thing possible has to happen to you. Because like, oh god, I'm not even trying to look at the movie right now, and I'm not even trying to even think about that scene again. But I literally feel sick to my stomach. Like we might literally cut this review short because I might throw up. Like I'm
Stop.
so, I'm sorry, I'm so disgusted, but that everything you're saying is like making sense, but my gut is telling me no, that's like horrible and wrong. Like let's not even entertain this. You get what I
Yeah.
mean?
Of course, I'm not saying like that should be expressed. Like, no, that's fucking wrong and that should not happen. And yeah, but at the same time, if there are people like that, they can only get help through expressing it and,
Hmm.
sharing it with someone. And that was my point. I'm not saying like government should fund pedophilia or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I just like I just thought about that when I saw that scene because of my own country and I just see the worst and weirdest scenarios on news in Turkey of like men and women doing the most effed up stuff
Hmm.
and when it comes to sexuality, and I think like government plays a big role, and I just
Hmm.
wanted to point that out. And also like the second thing I thought watching the scene was like Bro, how unfortunate it is to be born a woman.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's God, it's so insane. It's so insane. Like a part of me didn't want to watch this film because I knew scenes like this were going to happen. But I didn't want to watch this because I didn't want to be like an edge lord. You know what an edge lord is?
No.
It's like somebody who is like constantly saying like, you don't know about this. This is the most disgusting, vile, edgy film that ever exists. And you get what I'm saying? Like somebody who's always chasing that edge or that ledge. Like I, the thing, my biggest problem with this film, or one of the problems I have, is like in this story, there's those graphic scenes which really don't do anything or mean anything other than just gross us out. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we spoke about this before, but what did we miss anything by not seeing that? Or did we miss any? Like, would our lives have been better had we not seen that? You get what
Yep,
I'm saying?
definitely. I mean, the other sex scenes were obviously horrible as well. And
Yes.
I don't think we needed, the worst thing ever in the world.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think about, all the other horrific films we've watched, like Salo, like Titan. You know what I mean? They tell a deeper story and a deeper meaning, pretty boldly. And even though they have horrific things that happen, they're a part of telling that story. Nymphomaniac, all the sex scenes with Joe. You know what I mean? What did that have to do with anything?
Oh God. I mean, I guess it was to show like how crazy Vukmir was and
Yeah,
how like blindly passionate he was and how, just delusional he was
yeah,
about thinking like he was creating art.
yeah,
And actually he was so fucked up in the head.
yeah,
But I don't know, like, yeah, like honestly, I just did that whole, speech about how the government might affect our sexual fantasies and things like that. But that's from the whole of the movie and not specifically from the scene. I
yeah.
could have done it without it.
Okay. Let's do this. Let's continue on in the story, please.
Okay.
I cannot wait to see it. Hey, I have a question. Does this film ruin sex lives?
I definitely lowered my libido, I would say that.
Yeah, God. Anyway, I'm continuing. So, a bloodied Milos wakes up in bed 4 days later with no memory of what has happened. He returns to the now abandoned set and finds several tapes. Viewing them, Milos discovers he was drugged to induce an aggressive, sexually aroused, and suggestible state. At Vukmir's manipulative direction, Milos beats and rapes Yeka's mother before decapitating her, and later, a catatonic Milos is sodomized by Vukmir's security. He then watches footage of Leah voicing concern for Milos, only to be restrained as her teeth are removed. A masked man then enters the room and forces his penis down her throat to kill her by suffocation. The footage continues as Milos is led to Yeka's home, where an elderly woman praises him for killing her mother and offers Yeka as a virgin commune. Milos refuses and escapes through a window to refuge in an alleyway. That was funny how he like jumped through the window. That was just hilarious. Anyway, he's curled up watching a supposed underage streetwalker strutting by, who is heckled by two young thugs for her age, and Milos begins masturbating in plain view. He then gets attacked by two thugs, who then get killed by Rasha. He recoups Milos back to the warehouse with Vukmir. Any comments on any of those scenes?
So after this point of the movie, it just gets worse. Like, I don't know how it could get worse, but it's still pretty bad. And
Yeah.
it doesn't stop for a good 30 minutes. Like, the ending is just gore after gore after gore. And I was just like really feeling sick to my stomach
Hmm.
after, everything I saw. It was insane. And, he was constantly being drugged and he wasn't really doing anything like consciously.
But he was fighting against the drugs, though,
Yeah,
right?
he
So
was.
he was like drugged up, but then when he like realized he had to sleep with Yeka, he like grabs the knife and tries to fight back, threatens to cut off his dick. You get what I'm saying? But Milos is like in this state where he's going back and forth, like he's in control of his mind, but he's not in control of his dick.
Yeah, like I think what happened maybe was that like they were giving him drugs and then he was like experiencing the full high, and when it started to wear off, he was trying to fight it. But then they gave him more.
Yeah.
And then he got lost more. He got another high and things like that. And also I think what they gave him was also like Viagra or something like that. So he kept on having these like sexual urges to, hump everything that he saw. And I just thought like cinematically, I guess, I think they did it good because they were showing like fast scenes of what happened. But as audience, you try to like connect everything as he's doing.
Yeah.
So once again, we're just like Milos. We're trying to figure out as things happen, and we see it with him, and we see like basically like what he's going through, realizing what he was made to do. Audience is realizing it and also feeling like sick as well.
Yeah.
And I think like the movie did a good job like making us empathize with Milos.
Yeah. The only two scenes I really want to talk about is like when Milos is like retracing his steps. He passes a house and he sees Yeka right there, and she's like getting water from a well, and she like looks at him and he recognizes her, but she like just looks away sadly and like sort of walks away. That was kind of like very sad because I'm sure like if Yeka is in the Vukmir universe, if she was running with these people, it's highly likely she was, assaulted and probably up next to be, fucked and then decapitated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who knows what happened to her. So that was kind of sad. And then another thing that I thought was interesting was, oh man. Damn, I just thought about it. But yeah, when Rasha, the big guy with sunglasses and the tattoo on his neck, kills the thugs that are beating up Milos in the alley, he takes down his pants. And Vukmir says, "No, no, no, not now, not now." And I was like, "What? That's a wild boy. That's a wild, wild boy. Like, how do you even find people like that?"
Yeah, those people were crazy. Also, like one of the security slash cameramans rapes Milos as well.
Yeah.
So he watches that on tape later on. He doesn't remember that.
Oh,
It
oh
was
God.
just all bad, and definitely like in that scene with Yeka in the house with her grandma.
Mm-hmm.
How the grandma is sort of like offering the daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and that there was definitely, I think, again like that war trauma
Mm-hmm.
from those soldiers
Yeah.
that came back, even though like they did horrible things. Yeah, they shouldn't have done, but I just think like the reason that they did those things was because of the power and
Mm-hmm.
not individuals themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's accountability and there should be, but there's both sides of the story, and I thought like it was just hinting at that.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that grandma was kind of hot, low key. That's a guilt.
Oh my
What?
God, Simon! I can't believe you just thought about that in this scene.
The grandma was low key kind of hot. I ain't even gonna lie.
You're gross. Don't talk to me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, so Milos is back at the warehouse, and Vukmir's doctors administer more drugs, after which Milos overpowers her, sticking the syringe in her throat. He is then taken into a room to have intercourse with two hidden bodies under a sheet. Milos is guided onto one body, and then the masked man from Leela's movie enters and begins sexually assaulting the other. Milos doesn't notice that his victim is bleeding profusely from the rectum. Vukmir then reveals the masked man to be Marco, his brother. Marco's victim is revealed to be Maria, while Milos is revealed to be Peter, his son.
Oh
Wow.
God,
Yeah,
that
while
was so
Milos
bad.
is very, very bad. Oh, God, it was so bad. I knew it was gonna happen, but it was even worse than how I thought. Because like
I
when they showed the blood from the booty, I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I was not expecting Marco. Were you?
Uh, I kind of knew. At first, I thought the masked man was Milos, but then when I saw the masked man come again in the film, you get what I'm saying? I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's mostly Marco. right?
Do you think
Uh,
he was in on it from the beginning?
I I think I think when Milos contact no no I don't know, because there's like that scene at the beginning when Marco meets Leela at the restaurant, right? And she like plays him off like he's a bum. Maybe she contacted him later and got to business with him. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah,
Maybe.
I
What do you
think,
think? What do you think he was in?
I mean, first, when I first saw Marco at the end of the movie, I thought they just paid him to make the movie as well. And he was already in love with Maria, right?
Mm,
So he just agreed to do it.
mm,
But then now thinking about it, when Milos was talking to Layla in the beginning about the job opportunity, actually Marco was in behind, like watching them talk.
yeah.
So I think he might, now thinking about it, I think he was in it together with Vukmir. I think maybe,
Yeah.
he said, we can do this.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, Marco was in love with Maria. There was that scene when Marco was in the kitchen with Maria alone, and he sees her lustfully eat an apple, and I was like, Maria, why are you teasing this man? Maria was being a big tease.
Wow.
Loki,
How come? Y'all are just animals.
Loki. I'm gonna have the worst take in this film. Worst take. Maria. All of this is Maria's fault.
Simon, I'm about to come inside and slap you.
Okay, I take it back. It was all Peter's fault.
No. How can it be Peter's fault?
Because if Peter never was born.
Wow.
No, no, no. It's not. I mean, hey, no, I'm not going to take it there. No, it's not Peter's fault.
Thank
It's
you.
not.
Thank you. The boy bled from his anus.
Oh, why does he have to bring that up again? Oh,
Because you were going
anyway.
there.
So anyway, uh, yeah, so Milos is revealed to be having sex with his own son. Marco is having sex with, uh, Maria, who is Milos's wife. And Vukmir, the director, says the most quotable line in the entire movie. He says, "Look at this big, happy Serbian family." I almost died laughing. Like, that was a good ass line. I don't know why.
I mean, it was so ironic that it was so good.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
how can it get more fucked up than this?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that Vukmir, he worked as a child psychologist and also worked on children's television and state security. I don't think that's a mistake for him to have those three different careers as his background. I think, psychology is the deep analysis of the mind and all of the erogenous and dark parts that maybe people don't want to talk about. Children's television is the most, attention grabbing, basic seeking sort of media there is. And state security is about like secrets and also methods of torture and extracting information. So I think he took all of those elements about him to be like the ultimate pornographer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think like in movies as well, people who are very interested and intrigued about human psychology and human mind make the most fucked up movies because
Mm.
they see how like really complex and brutal our minds can get,
Mm,
throughout the history or in their own families, why people do stuff. It
mhm,
just gets very dark. And yeah, I can see that. But
yeah.
at the same time, like now, I don't know if that was true because I'm just thinking now Marco could have lied.
What do you mean?
Like Marco could have just lied about Vukmir's background to
Mm.
Milos because he wanted Milos to keep on doing the movie.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Like, like maybe none of that was true, and Marco was just like trying to like maybe either scare him or just say that the guy is credible, so continue working with him, right?
Yeah, like maybe it was true, but maybe like Vukmir got kicked out of the orphanage when he was working with the orphans because he tried to rape a girl or something.
Mm.
And like he didn't tell him that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Who knows? Vukmir is sort of a mystery, but Vukmir is a central character because I believe he sort of represents that sick, twisted artist, like the mad scientist character,
Hmm.
the doctor that wants to create Frankenstein. I think it's also common in media to have the artist who wants to push the boundaries no matter what, and
Yeah,
Vukmir is like on that time.
definitely. Like an artist who would do whatever for
Yeah,
the art, art for art, not art for people.
yeah, yeah. So after the big reveal of the big happy Serbian family happens, uh, the doctor, the nurse who was giving drugs to Milos, she walks in to the warehouse room where they're shooting, and her clothes are all covered in blood, especially around her vagina, and she's holding a bloodied metal pipe in her hand, implying that she masturbated herself to death after being shot up with the same drug she used on Milos to make him sexually aroused and aggressive. And then she falls down and dies from a massive vaginal hemorrhaging. At that point in the movie, I was like, okay, they're just trying to gross us out to the ultimate extreme, right? Like, there was no point in that. There was really no point in that. Like, if the girl didn't walk in, that movie would have still gone on. It was just like, hey, let's just add this one extra thing in here. You know what I mean? But what did you think?
It was so gross. I thought I actually understood that part wrong because I thought they raped her
Mm,
when they saw her because I thought she died.
yeah,
Right? Because yeah, when Milos like put the syringe on her throat, like her mouth, bubbled up and stuff like that. So I thought she died, and then I thought other guys like raped her, but obviously that was not the case. And I guess it just showed like how strong those things that they injected in Milos,
yeah,
like they could literally make a woman kill herself
hmm
through that. So I
yeah.
guess that was the purpose. It was definitely very gross.
Yeah, which was a worse way to die? The way the nurse died or Leela died?
Oh God, Leela.
Yeah, yeah, that's worse
I
because
guess like
she was
both of
not
them are
high.
really bad.
Yeah, she was not high. She was tortured for hours and then choked to death with a large Serbian cock. So
Wow.
yeah,
Okay, this review is like just insane.
it's absolutely insane. And I'm sorry, but you brought this on yourself. You picked this. You picked this film.
Sorry,
I swear to
I'm
God,
I'm only picking animation movies from now on.
dog. We're about to review all the Shrek films. Anyway, the big happy Serbian family becomes a mess. So with everyone's attention diverted, an enraged Milos lunges at Vukmir and smashes his head against the floor, initiating a brawl during which Maria bites Marco in the jugular before bludgeoning him to death with the sculpture. Milos wrestles a gun from a guard and shoots all but Rasha, whom he kills by shoving his erect penis in his empty eye socket. Oh,
That was so gross. I
very
had to see
gross.
that again just now because I was rewatching it.
I'm not rewatching it. I'm strictly looking at Wikipedia. I refuse to look at this. It's all in my head. What made that part so bad is that Milos's dick was like brown and bloodied. Do you remember that?
Yes, so gross.
Oh God, it was like covered in dookie and blood and cum. Like,
Ew.
and the thing about an eye socket, no matter how big somebody's eyes is, a dick won't fit in there. So
Yeah,
that's like Milos's dick will never be the same. Like after this night, like everything he's done.
yeah.
Anyway, a dying Vukmir praises Milos's actions as truly worthy of a film. Any comments on the big fight scene at the end?
It was just gross. Like the eye socket was gross. I was literally about to throw up when I saw that. Uh, like the way it was shot, like the way the penis was forcing the eye. It was just really bad.
Yeah,
And obviously, like Maria, I was like, go girl, like kill all those motherfuckers. And I was just imagining, like, the kind of shock Maria was in. Cause she was conscious.
yeah. And then at the end, Milos walks up to Maria and Maria's like pointing the gun at him and she's like, stay back. And then he like straight up punches her in the face. Like that was kind of wild. Like I did not expect that.
Yeah, I guess he was just thinking like I have to like make it stop.
Yeah. So
And
I gotta punch after everything I've been through. You know what I need to do? Punch my wife in the face.
I mean, he couldn't talk at that point. Like whatever he can say, it wasn't gonna suffice. It wasn't gonna just like explain whatever happened.
Yeah.
So he just was like, let me knock her out. I don't want to kill her either. And I guess like we'll take care of it later.
Yeah, yeah. And then there was that flashback of like the final thing he did. So he knocks out his wife, picks up his son and his wife, drives them home, and basically like locks them in the basement. And we don't really know if they're like alive or dead. But then, Milos tries to like kill himself, but he doesn't have any more bullets in the gun. So then he lays down on the bed and falls asleep. And then that's when, the story of what happened, the 2 nights before is over. You know what I mean? Uh, yeah, it was kind of crazy, like how the whole thing played out and very disturbing and kind of pointless. Once again, all of these things that we're talking about, they really have no point. Like the reason my wife and I were talking so much at the beginning of this review is because everything that this film is about is pretty much summed up in like the first half. And then the second half is pretty much grossness on depravity on depravity. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
definitely agreed. I mean, I guess, yeah, like you said, the main ideas are given to us in the beginning, and then the ending just brings it home by actually showing, all of those grossness
Yeah,
things.
all the
Yeah.
sickness, right? Like this is one of those rare films where there's more to talk about at the start than at the end, right?
Yeah.
Unless you just want to say, man, which is worse, like fucking your son or your brother fucking your wife, like unless you want to have one of those caveman low IQ debates, I guess.
Wow. I don't even want to have questions like who would you rather questions about this movie
Yeah,
or
yeah,
how would you rather?
yeah. But yeah, going here, Milos, having recalled his actions, including locking his wife and son in their basement before passing out earlier, returns home to find them. He and his wife come to a mutual understanding that they and their son should die together. So the three gather in bed and embrace before Milos fires a fatal shot through himself, Peter, and Maria. I sort of disagree with how they wrote that there in Wikipedia. It's not like there was an understanding. Like, okay, when Milos gets his family out of the basement, right? Peter is scared, Maria is scared, but then he walks up to them and like hugs them and embraces them. And then like throughout the rest of the movie, right? Those last few minutes, there's like montages of like, of Milos walking through the house with the gun and stuff like that. And then one day his wife like puts his hand on the gun and says, "It's okay." Or at least we think it's okay. But then they lay down in the bed and like decide to kill themselves. It didn't feel like they all agreed to it. It was more like the two fucked up parents were like, yeah, let's just kill ourselves. You get what I'm saying? But I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, they didn't ask the kid
Right.
because basically, like, I think there was a mutual understanding between the two parents, yes.
Hmm.
And I just think, I guess Maria, I don't know how she did it. Like, she's a strong bitch. She was just like, I get that Milos got into this fucked up situation and he was forced into doing this. And it wasn't him. Like, he wouldn't have done this to us. And
Right.
I guess she knew that. But then afterwards, like the way they showed them around the house was like they were like zombies. Like
Yeah.
even the kid, the kid was also like a zombie too. Because like kids are never quiet. Like they
Hmm.
ask questions, they're curious about things, even if they're like, you know, traumatized,
Hmm.
I guess. And they were just walking around like zombies. And I kind of like think that they made the best decision, maybe. I don't know,
Uh,
because it was just crazy. Like, how were they supposed to continue their lives?
no, the best decision would have been Maria finally waking up and realizing, hey, investing my life into a porn star, starting a life with this guy was the worst decision I could have ever made. And, I think the problem with this film, and message wise, is like okay, we're telling women get beat on, shit on, pissed on, killed by your men around you. And when shit goes left, die with your man, like literally ride or die, instead of having some autonomy. You get what I'm saying? Like this film, I think is probably one of the most sexist films we've ever seen, low key,
Mm.
because there's so many opportunities for women to have some agency. Instead, they get the short end of the stick or the short end of the metal pipe in their vagina.
Wow, gross, gross joke.
Okay,
Anyway,
but yeah,
I guess, but at the same time, like, I understand Maria. Like, she's the best character in the movie.
no, she's
And
not. No,
yes,
no.
she is.
The way
Like,
she goes out is villainous. No, number one, killing yourself and your child is wrong, wrong, wrong. We just watched
yes.
like the what is it, the Color Purple, not the Color Purple, Beloved, right? And you said, I think if I remember, killing your baby just to not go into slavery is still wrong. Is wrong.
Yeah,
You
of
know what I'm saying?
course, killing your baby is wrong and killing yourself is wrong. But I just say, like, I understand her, if that
Uh,
makes sense. And yeah, like, like, you could look at it in a sexist way, but I just don't think she wanted to leave him because I think she truly loved him.
hmm
Like, even if, everything that happened. And also, one of the things I was thinking about when they were like about to kill themselves was that he didn't get the money either.
mm,
So I was like, they're fucked up at this point. Like, he did all this shit. He didn't get paid because he killed the boss.
hmm
And, yeah, I mean, it was all for nothing.
Wow, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, they really truly got exploited. Like literally exploited. Because the tapes are still out there, right? And the only reason Milos found the tapes is because of what happens next at the film. So basically, they kill themselves in the bed. They fight, Milos fires a shot that goes through all three of their bodies while they're laying in bed. And then, immediately after, another film crew of the three guys that were seen earlier, the bald guys surrounded by the two bodyguards, they enter the bedroom and one of the guys in the group unzips his pants and the big fat director says, start with the little one, implying, to have sex with the dead little boy on camera, right? So basically, even when, Milos killed Vukmir, the movie was still being shot and he didn't even know about it. They were leading him on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah,
That
that
was
ending
so
was
fucked
kind of,
up.
yeah, the ending was hella sick. It was very sick. Yeah, like you said, they got exploited to the end because they got this very twisted, sick Serbian film made for no money. They got
Yeah.
the ultimate porn film made for no money.
And it cost them like their lives as well.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. It's depraved. It's sick. Um, I do think that this film has a message in it, but it's it's so hard to like touch on and say that it's worth telling the story this way. And it's hard to say like it was worth telling the story that, our sexualities can sometimes be abused and exploited in the system of capitalism, while at the same time abusing women so much on screen and making so little use of the opportunity to layer the characters.
Mm.
So yeah,
Okay. And what, like, give us your final score, like, the pros and cons in your score.
as an experience, it's a one. It's a painful, terrible, horrific experience. So 1 out of 10. Uh, as a film, honestly, I give it a five. Honestly, it's a five. It's a five.
Okay.
Um, Aside from the graphic, if you take out all the graphic sex and mutilation that happens in this film and still tell the story, um, is actually really good. But I think the graphicness of it kind of takes it away and makes it cheaper.
Mm.
Honestly.
Okay. I get what you mean.
You
Um,
know, if you tell the story, hey, there was this retired porn star who, got one last job to shoot a film, but he finds out the film involves pedophilia and murder and rape and even incest. He does this without knowing it. He ends up killing himself and his wife, but then we find out later that it was still a bigger movie going on, and they even rape his son and wife and him when he's dead. Like, that's a tragedy. Like, that's a full-on tragedy, right? And that's a deep story. But newborn porn makes it horrible to watch. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I get it. I mean, I think I agree with you. Like, the idea was there, and it could have been, like, if it was executed more, I guess, attention to detail, more
Yeah.
in an intricate way, well, like, focusing more on the characters rather than the gore. I
Mm-hmm.
think it would have been, like, one of the, good movies that we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how Sala was, or Uncle Tom was,
Mm-hmm.
or Martyrs was.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you on that. Like, as an experience, it was definitely one. Because it
Mm-hmm.
just, like, makes you sick.
Yeah.
Literally makes you sick. And as, like, a film, like, cinematography and everything, I guess I would give it a 6.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree with what you said, but I did also like how they sort of, like, took us through that adventure with Milos.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how they not developed, but I liked Milos's character and how
Mm-hmm.
it was portrayed, and how we sort of, like, went through this whole gruesome experience with him. I
Mm-hmm.
really liked, how the director did that. And I was at the edge of my seat, like, cause it was like, because he was drugged and he was learning things as he went, it was also like a mystery as well. You get what I mean? So we were trying to figure out as well. So it kept me, like, on my feet with a stomach, like, that
Mm-hmm.
was about to throw up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give it a 7 for the
Yeah.
movies. Not 7, sorry, 6.
Yeah, yeah. If all the characters had like layers like Milos, it would be a much better film. And it would have just taken a little more dialogue from Maria, a little more dialogue from Marco, more time spent with Peter. Just a few words could have done a lot to bring those people to life. Um, but
Yeah.
I feel like this film, spends too much time on the graphicness, right? Rather than the overall horror of exploitation in pornography,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The story in itself is horrific enough. You don't have to add on newborn porn. Like, that's not.
Yeah. Oh God, don't say it. Every time
Okay.
you say it, I see the scene.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I got nothing else to say.
Would you recommend this movie to anybody?
It's hard for me to say like why I would recommend this. Like, is it a horror film? It's not even scary. Is it thought provoking? It doesn't really provoke much thought, I would say. There's a lot of discussion, maybe, I guess, but you're discussing, hey, why didn't they explain this or talk about this, or why did this happen? So it's hard for me to say, yeah, I would recommend it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, like, there's only one person I would recommend this movie to,
Who?
and that's, like, my cousin who likes really effed up movies,
Yeah,
like, just gory movies, and I think she might even, like, not talk to me if I recommend her this movie.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, like, if you're really into that, like, just horrible gore
Mm-hmm.
play, sort of movie, go for it. But other than that, I don't think you're missing that much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the idea is there, but I think execution is missing a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah. One last thing that I want to read is from the director, and what he had to say about this film. Oh no, the writer of this film, right? So about a few years ago, 10 years ago after this film release, the writer said this. So writer Yadayevic, was speaking at a college, and he discussed the specifics of the material for what would eventually become a Serbian film being gathered over a period of 10 years, starting in the late 1990s from a film school screenplay idea of his that the Belgrade University of Arts Faculty of Dramatic Arts student initially developed only as far as the synopsis titled Orgasmatron. So this film started like, as a school student project back in like the 90s. So Radojevic further revealed, when it comes to the general framing of the original screenplay idea, he drew inspiration from the porn star and filmmaker Rocco Siffredi. Have you heard of Rocco Siffredi?
No, have you?
Yeah, he was like a very, very famous porn star. And he is like, when you think of old school porn, like, doctor, I'm sick. Okay, let me give you this dick. Like, he is that guy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Italian
No, I
stallion.
don't. I
He
don't
was
really
like,
know any porn stars,
he,
really.
he was like the Johnny Sins to our grandmothers.
And he was like famous all over the world.
Rocco Siffredi is very famous. He even had a Netflix documentary.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. He was like Johnny Sins. So all the white women know him.
Okay.
And all the gay men and white women know Rocco Siffredi. Anyway, so Radojevic, he drew inspiration from porn star and filmmaker Rocco Siffredi's 1990s cinematic exploits. And he said this. So Siffredi had been cranking out VHS tapes depicting himself engaged in brutal sexual acts on location with local girls in different parts of Europe, mostly in marginalized and poor post-communist Eastern European countries, all of which had an uncomfortable undertone of colonialism. One particular scene that stayed in my mind was him having sex with a girl in a car, while in the background you see the forest out of which a group of grizzled beggars suddenly starts to emerge. At which point Siffredi, who by now is done with the girl, returns her to the downtrodden locals, handing her over to them in the manner of a modern day Marquis de Sade, as if to say, here you go, I've finished with what I needed to do. She's all yours now. So by making the main character in that original synopsis an aging male porn star, I began to incorporate this notion of modern day colonialism via sexual exploitation of a poor country's human resource. So I find that interesting because I think that a way you can look at this film is that the writer is sort of like attacking like the the porn star Rocco Siffredi. Like this film is a big diss to Rocco Siffredi because
Yeah.
like Rocco was like fucking all these poor Ukrainians and Serbians, and he said, "You know what I wish happened to you? I wish you got drugged. I wish you got raped. I wish you had sex with your daughter and son." You get what I'm saying? Like this is like a big twisted world. You get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I think like from here, it does seem like an anti-porn movie.
Hmm. Yeah. Or this specific type of porn, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
people are doing international sex tourism for profit on top of that. Not even spending the money on the girls. Of course, you're going to pay the girls, but you're going to make more money filming having sex with them than spending on it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And also like, this sort of exploitative, like you said, and abusive
Mhm.
type of porn,
Yeah.
like aggressive.
Yeah. Very aggressive. Choke me daddy, spit in my mouth, all
Ew.
that stuff. Yeah. But, yeah, that's all I really got to say. And,
Okay.
any other comments?
No, I just found that there's actually a documentary about this movie called a Serbian documentary.
do
I don't know if we should watch it, but maybe I'll check it out later.
they
Just letting
interview the
that out there.
do they interview the actors and stuff like that?
I think so. Yeah, it's a documentary about like how they made the movie.
I see. I see. Okay. This film was banned in a few different countries:
Yep.
Australia, Brazil, New Zealand. In fact, it's still banned in New Zealand. Wow.
Yeah, I can see
Okay.
that.
Yeah. It was banned in Spain. Okay. Um, yeah. South Korea. It was edited a lot. Yeah. Do you think this film should be banned?
I don't think this film should be banned. I think even though like, some people really might not like it, might think it's not like okay to show this type of things. It's still a movie. I think it's still art.
Mhm.
And I don't think any art should be banned and it should be like just warned against,
Yeah.
like inform people that this is just very, graphic and sexual abuse. There's sexual abuse in it and stuff like that. And then people can decide if they want to watch it or not.
Yeah, I'm not for banning art, right? Because this film is still a work of art. It's not over. It does tell a story. It has, some meaning and stuff like that. Yeah, don't ban this film. Just make it very hard for people to access, right?
Yeah.
Sell this at the back of the back of the back of the back of the store, right? Like, no
Yeah,
cover.
I don't think this movie is like featured in any streaming services.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry. Like the only people who are really watching this film, looking for this film, are like edgelords online, right? And edgy teenagers. Edgy teenage boys are like, "Hey man, let's watch the Serbian film. I bet you can't stand it," right? Like that's it, okay? Like, and every generation has one of those films. Like everybody grew up with that one film or whatever that was supposed to be the extreme thing that you're into, right? And that's what this is,
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure in like a few years, give it like 20, 30 years, right? This movie will be looked at more tame. Does that make sense? Like, I was scared to watch Solo because I thought it was going to be hella graphic. But when I saw the scene with the girl lying in the pool of shit and the people getting their eyes gouged out, I was like, that's not graphic. I've seen worse on like a Tuesday on Twitter.
Ew, what type of Twitter feed do you have?
There's horrible things on Twitter, right? But yeah, you can see worse online is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I don't know. Because this movie is pretty bad. Like,
Mhm.
there's newborn porn in this movie.
Yeah.
So, I don't know about that. But I'm sure
Mhm.
as time goes by, it will be more tolerated.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's all I got to say. That's all I want to say. And yeah, more movie reviews coming soon. This has been episode 71 of Simon and Acting Movie Reviews. The Serbian film is done. Don't ask for it. We don't want to hear about it ever again. And y'all be easy out there. Peace.